have a confession. I've been struggling with something and trying to figure it out before I came on here to talk about, I found a solution. And I'm not really finding a solution. So I just thought I would talk about the fact that I am really struggling with a scarcity mindset. Feeling like there's never enough time, and I have this obsession about time. And I think that happens when you get a terminal diagnosis for a spouse or yourself, or something happens, or an accident or an illness, and we suddenly have time, or our concept of whatever that means for us, like staring us in the face, and feeling like we have less of it. And there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of resentment and anticipation. And I'm very aware that this is not healthy. And I keep trying to dissipate this feeling of scarcity and work through it and acknowledge it and solve it. And I wake up many, if not most days, feeling a scarcity mindset. And I think things can really fall into our lap at interesting times. I was pulling up a podcast, but it was something, oftentimes we'll click on a title that's most relevant to us. So this one was a poet, David Whyte. And normally I would absolutely skip over that because I'm not into poetry. I've never really grasped poetry. I feel like I'm not smart enough for poetry. And for some reason, I had this instinct to listen to this podcast, and I was almost immediately in tears, moving emotions that had felt so stuck about this scarcity mindset, and him addressing time and our concept of time and moving through difficult things and letting go and all these things that just were so incredibly relevant to me. And Tim had asked him, why do you write poetry? And trying to help, and I should get his exact words, but trying to help people where they can't find any other answers or no other tools are resonating or landing. That's often where poetry can fill a gap. And it definitely filled a gap for me that day. And it was just this reminder that if we see a title or a headline or a news article or whatever type of content or advertisement, or even thinking about a sport, CrossFit's not for me. I use that example because I used to say that and I ended up loving CrossFit. Or yoga is not for me, or writing's not for me. If you feel it's not for you, you should especially give it a try. Take my example of poetry. You might be surprised, or you're just validated, and maybe it really isn't for you. But I was pleasantly surprised, finding so much understanding and really resonated with me. It was exactly the thing I needed in that moment. So today I want to challenge you. The next time you're reading a headline or sifting for a book or a podcast title or a newsletter or whatever you're reading, you want to take something in, you want to learn something new, don't dismiss that thing because it doesn't feel relevant to you, or you haven't explored it in the past. You might be surprised and delighted that that is exactly what you need as something new to learn about and new to explore. And I bought a couple of David Whyte's books. I haven't gotten them. I ordered them immediately. And I'm going to challenge myself to memorize one of his poems, or even a few lines, and see how that might help me on my journey as we lean into mantras or things that we need to tell ourselves or hear that help us keep moving forward. So I just want you to write at the top of your page, or think about giving yourself permission not to dismiss something that you wouldn't normally gravitate towards. And if you already have an example of something that surprised you, for me, poetry, write a couple lines about that. What was that thing? And how did that impact you in a surprising way? It's all about forward momentum, a learning mindset, being open-minded, all of these things that might seem really small and insignificant really can support us more than we realize. So happy exploring, happy writing.